Good evening. Welcome to the Willmar City Council meeting for Monday, November 5th, 2007. Roll call.
Mayor Heitke.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Swenson. Gardner.
Here.
Docken.
Here.
Fagerly. DeBleek.
Here.
Present 7, absent 2.
Thank you, Audrey. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the citizens in the chambers tonight and to our citizens who are watching this meeting through our local access cable television. Tonight we have one scheduled hearing, public hearing, which is to consider a street vacation on 11th Street Southwest and a portion of Pacific Avenue Southwest, and then the usual committee reports from Finance and Public Works and several resolutions near the end of the meeting. And we'll have a few announcements at the end of the meeting. So we'll begin by asking the City Council members if they have any proposed additions, deletions, or changes to the City Council agenda. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have a discussion regarding a motion regarding the property at 1000 Candy Ojai Avenue Southwest.
1000 Candy Ojai Avenue Southwest. Okay, and you'll explain all that, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else for the council members? If not, we will then go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Tonight it's a fairly short consent agenda. It includes the minutes from the City Council meeting of October 15th, the Hospital Board minutes of October 17th, the Utilities Commission minutes of October 22nd, the Planning Commission minutes of October 24th, acceptance of the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board minutes of September 18th, and also this includes an application for an exempt permit by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. And again, this is an annual application for a fundraising event by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Do the council members have any questions or concerns about the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, those in favor of accepting the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next, we will begin our scheduled public hearing, and I will now open the public hearing. This is to consider a street vacation 11th Street Southwest and a portion of Pacific Avenue Southwest. And I'll call on Mr. Peterson. Gentlemen, did you want to address the council tonight or anything? No. Okay. All right. Bruce Peterson is the Director of Planning and Development. Bruce, would you explain what this issue is about?
Mayor Heitke, members of the council, the city, through the Planning Commission and staff, has initiated action to vacate a portion of Benson Avenue and a portion of Pacific Avenue, and those streets are described in the resolution and also shown on the accompanying map. The portion of Benson Avenue is between, or the portion of 11th Street is between Benson and Pacific Avenue, and the portion of Pacific Avenue is just north of Pacific Avenue. It would be just east of the 11th Street section, and it's a very short length. The proposal for vacation is to allow the location of a pump station for the future wastewater treatment plant project. It's being proposed that even though this right-of-way is requested to be vacated, that the city retain the entire right-of-way as a utility easement so we don't have any issues in the future regarding access to our facilities. Currently, a major portion of this right-of-way on each side of the driving lanes is utilized by Jenny-O Turkey Store for parking, And other than the area at the very south end of this property, it would be the intention of the city to still allow parking to remain on that site. And we've worked with the Jennie-O Turkey Store people so that they have conducted some driving exercises to make sure their trucks can get in and out of the space that's being left for them to maneuver in that area. This vacation would not cut off access for any property owner and would still allow access to all of the Jennie-O Turkey Store facilities as well as the other business facilities in that area.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there anyone in the public here who wishes to ask any questions or speak about this proposed vacation of a public street? Anybody wish to make any comments or ask any questions? If not, I will close the public hearing, and then the matter comes before the City Council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we pass the resolution of vacation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to approve the vacating of a portion of a public street as it was just described to us. Further comment about that? Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, have there been any property owners adjacent to this vacation that have registered any concerns at all?
I had 2 phone calls. Both were for clarification and to assure themselves that they were going to have access to their properties, and both callers were satisfied.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I have a quick question, Bruce. Does this in any way impact our own street maintenance, snow plowing, things of that nature? Is that anything that's changed because of this?
There will have to be some provisions made to turn a city plow around on Pacific Avenue, where in the past it's been able to be a flow through the property or through the streets. So in these cases, there's typically some work that has to be done to change some habits, plowing habits, activities, but I don't think it's anything insurmountable.
Turning radiuses are fine and things of that nature.
Yeah, they'll have to work with the adjacent property owner and coordinate on the snow plowing with the Jennie-O Turkey Store facilities, because I'm guessing sometimes Jennie-O's pushing snow that's in the city's right-of-way, and sometimes the city pushes snow up onto the Jennie-O property, so there's coordination required anytime we've got a major commercial use next to a street.
And then this question is from Mel, our city engineer. Mel, if we vacate this public street, who's responsible for the maintenance of it? Asphalting, things of that nature. Does that change in any way?
Well, I think the actual ownership would be to the adjacent property owners, and a portion of it's going to be taken up with facilities as well.
You don't see any problems?
No, the only issue that we got to resolve yet is just issues with converting the state aid route system, as it's a state aid system for the commercial vehicles.
Okay, so you don't see any problems with vacating the street?
No, other than like Bruce had indicated, the snow plowing and some of the maintenance on the turnaround as far as turning around when you get down toward the facility.
Okay. Anybody else? Council, are you ready to vote on this? This is a roll call vote. Audrey?
Councilmember Reese,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Anderson,
Abstain.
Gardner,
Aye.
Dockin,
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 no, 1 abstention.
The resolution passes. Next, we will go to the Willmar City Council open forum. Is there anybody that wishes to address the City Council tonight with any matter? Good evening, Warren.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Warren Jorgensen, 1000 Candio Avenue Southwest, Willmar, Minnesota. I'm here again tonight asking for any support that you folks may have or offer to my wife and I. We are currently at 620 South 1st Street, and a property that's going to be removed in April. So thankfully we have a roof over our head. We're not on the street anymore. But again, I know at a previous Public Works meeting, city staff had asked for a couple of weeks to finish up some information, hopefully in our favor. But again, I'm here tonight asking for your consideration and support of my wife and I in our dilemma with our property. So that's basically what I've got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? All right. Council members, anybody wish to make any comment? All right, we will move on then. The Finance Committee report for October 22nd. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on our agenda has to do with the suspense assessments. Clerk Halliday explained to us that the special assessment classification for a parcel of the 1969 bond and the 1972 bond needs to be changed from future suspense to future ag. This parcel is located north of the parking lot by the college, and it was annexed into the city in 1993, and it remains as ag land. The amount of the assessments for this parcel, number 33-004-0055, and the 1969 bond is $10,688.70, and for the 72 bond is $14,375.92. We were also informed that the special assessments classified as future suspense for two parcels from the 1975 bonds need to be written off because the useful life of the improvements has expired. The amount of the assessments for parcels number 33-023-0100 and 95-93-8820 is $74.43. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I'm going to introduce two resolutions, Mr. Mayor. The first one is a resolution reclassifying the 1969 and 1972 special assessments for parcel 33-004-0055 from future suspense to future ag in the amounts of $10,688.70 and $14,375.92.
Second.
We have a resolution that's been introduced to reclassify a 1969 and 1972 assessments for parcel of land from future suspense to future agriculture. And the amounts involved are $10,688.70 and $14,375.92. Comment or questions?
I got a question, Mr.
Councilmember Reese.
Where is this? It north of the parking lot at the college? That doesn't tell me. I'm just trying to figure out what, is it across the road? It is.
It's my understanding that this is a parcel across the road that is, that parcel number was not in the city limits at the time of the assessments and is now in the city. And if and when it is no longer used for ag purposes, then it will be assessed these amounts.
Is this east of the Religion and Life?
I think so.
I believe it is. I believe it's that open area that's east of the
Okay.
Religion and Life
All right.
Center. Yeah.
Bruce, do you know what the term future suspense refers to? I can understand future agriculture, but what's future suspense? Do you?
I don't have a clue what that means. That's an assessing term, and
Does anybody on staff know what that means? Rick? Pardon? It's deferred. Oh, deferred.
Suspended.
Okay.
well, why would they say
All right. Any other comments? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis, were any of these parcels part of the follow-up that Kevin was going to do as far as documentation of the amounts, I think it was? I don't have my notes with me.
Councilmember Dockin, I think what you're referring to is he indicated that there were some other parcels that we would have to look at in the future too. But these were the two that we needed to act on now. There are, I don't remember, 4 or 5 other parcels out there that had some similar things, but they weren't due for another 4 or 5 years. So we said, we'll deal with those when the time comes. These are
Okay.
just that we had to deal with now.
Okay.
Anyone else? This is a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
DeBleek,
Aye.
Reese,
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
The resolution passes.
And then I will introduce a resolution to write off the 1975 future suspense assessments for parcels 33, 023, 0100, and 95, 923, 8820 in the amount of $7,443.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a resolution to write off the 1975 future suspense assessments in the amount of $7,443. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
DeBleek,
Aye.
Reese,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes.
The next item on our agenda was a discussion from the Willmar Design Center. Bev Doherty from the Design Center updated us as to what's happened in downtown Willmar to date and what projects are being pursued. The Design Center has submitted a request to the City of Willmar to open up Litchfield Avenue on both ends of downtown, and they've asked that that be included in the 2008 budget. They're compiling a detailed list of all available property in the downtown area, and they're going to send that information to both the Chamber and the EDC so that they can put it on their websites, thereby allowing people that have an interest in knowing what's available downtown, they could access it there. The Design Center is also discussing the possibility of a convertible street on Becker Avenue between 3rd and 6th Streets to establish a commons area. They have submitted a federal transportation grant in the amount of $180,000, and that's for the connection to the Lakes Project, which is a bike trail and a trailhead area out in the area of Ella Avenue and Business 7123 at that intersection. And if that grant is approved, the city's contribution would be in the amount of $68,000, with the work beginning in 2012. Ms. Doherty also provided copies of her letter to Mayor Heike communicating the Willmar Design Center's support for a downtown parking facility. She stated that the current available parking for hospital staff and patients is not adequate, nor will it be as the hospital adds new health care options. Further, a new parking facility would enable the proposed downtown commons area. As a side note there, we did explain to Ms. Doherty the status and implication of our current local option sales tax, which is what they were looking at as a funding mechanism. We do have several years left on that, and then there needs to be a period of time, I believe it's 1 year, that there can be no tax, and then you have to take another application to the voters and then to the legislature. So we explained all that to her, but they said they just wanted us to have that for the record. Then John Christensen distributed the Design Center's financial report that showed the budget amounts as well as the actual expenditures as of September 30th, 2007. He also provided a report detailing the City of Willmar's portion of the Design Center's revenue with the associated expenses. Looks like all of the budget items, they're on track for 2007. That discussion was all for information only. The next item was ongoing discussion of the 2008 budget. We continued to review the mayor's proposed 2008 budget by considering expenditures. Finance Director Okins stated that no new positions are being proposed in the 2008 budget, and all employee contracts are set through 2009. There were some items not included in the operating budget, but that we had been discussing. One of those is the need for a part-time maintenance position at the Senior Citizen Center, Southwest Initiative Foundation's request for $10,000, the franchise fee ordinance, which we'll hear about later, and the reduction of the library's request, which amounts to approximately a $7,000 additional expense to the city. Then we talked about some items, capital projects that are not in the budget, and those have to do with the Litchfield Avenue openings in downtown, quiet zones, and stormwater. We reminded the committee that our next meeting was going to be 1 week later, and that we would notify the members if that meeting was in fact going to happen, and we asked that if they had any ideas, suggestions, or questions about the budget, to bring those forward to staff, and we would have those on the agenda at the following meeting. So that discussion was for information. Then finally, we reviewed some reports. We looked at the third quarter interest and dividends, the third quarter investment activity, the September 30th investment portfolio, the September 30th Rice Hospital, third quarter Rice Trust. I guess that was all we looked at. That was for information. So unless there's some questions, I'd move to file these minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes of the Finance Committee of October 22nd. Comments? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis, I don't remember whether the question was asked, so I'll ask it right now. They state that current available parking for hospital staff and patients is not adequate. Having sat on that Rice Hospital Board now for 3 years, I've never heard that comment made at the board that there's not adequate parking. So I'd like for Bev Doherty to provide us with data that reflects how they arrived at making this statement that current available parking for hospital and staff is not adequate. I don't believe that.
Okay, I believe that was her comment. So we can sure ask for clarification if staff can ask. Excuse me.
Anything else?
Done.
All right. You'll get clarification.
Okay.
Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the Rice Board, have they not, has indicated their support for this project along with the Design Center, and for, I think, many of the reasons that were stated at that same time by the Design Center. And I just want to say that I think that there was a letter to that effect from the Rice Board.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dennis.
What Councilmember Gardner is saying is correct. The hospital, their board did go on record as requesting that a parking ramp be built in downtown Willmar.
I have just a question, Dennis. I know that, you know, in the mayor's proposed budget, there was no funding proposed for the Southwest Initiative Foundation request for $10,000. And then subsequent to that, the executive director of the Southwest Initiative Foundation visited with our city administrator and explained the need and the benefit of continuing funding because of the leadership role that Willmar has in the southwest part of the state, and the fearfulness of if Willmar pulls out, then there's kind of a cascading effect to other cities that are supporting it. My point is I certainly understand that, but with the reduction in state aids from the state of Minnesota because the omnibus bill was not passed, and other requests, that this becomes a tenable kind of request. The second thing is that raises a question in my mind is, if we were to support the Southwest Initiative Foundation request, why would we not also support the Willmar Area Community Foundation, which is our own foundation here in Willmar and in Candioi County? Now, the Southwest Initiative Foundation, we have a history of donating to them every year, but they also told us that they have over $50 million in their foundation at this time. And, they have a strong foundation. We do benefit from it frequently in this community through grants for economic development, grants for support of certain services and projects both within Willmar and in Candioi County. But we also have a local community foundation that right now has assets of about $4 million and is trying to build up their assets, which also makes grants back into the community. They're on a much smaller scale, but it is our own foundation, and we wish that to also grow. So as the Finance Committee continues to discuss this, I would just like you to consider the role of both foundations. Supporting a regional foundation is certainly an admirable and good thing to do, but supporting a local foundation, which is run by our citizens, is also a very good thing to do. So it's a tough question to wrestle with, but I just put it back in your consideration for future discussion. Dennis?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. You make a very good point. What you're going to find, not only from these minutes, but in the minutes of our meeting of last week, is I think we do a better job of surfacing ideas and problems rather than coming up with solutions. I think we feel that we'll bring out as many of the suggestions as what we have, and then when the full council talks about the budget, we'll probably wrap all of those discussions up at that time and come up with some suggestions and solutions. But definitely the Community Foundation analysis and analogy is very good.
All right, thank you. Any other comments before we approve these minutes? Seeing and hearing none, those in favor of filing these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We had a second Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, October 29th, and Councilmember Anderson, would you lead us through those minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, talking about the budget, and some of this is somewhat repetitious, but these are the sorts of things that we are talking about sometimes at length, but this is just a summary. Some of the items that weren't in the budget we've heard about before is the need for the part-time maintenance position at the senior center, how much that might cost and how it might be funded. Again, the Southwest Foundation's request for $10,000. The franchise fee ordinance, and we'll come to that in a minute. And then the reduction of the library's request of about $7,000. Then the chairman just threw out an idea for discussion. Do we have an appetite for trying to reduce the levy? And if so, what options might we have? And we threw out a number of $150,000. Some of it could come from RAC 8 reserves and maybe some other from staff recommendations. I think it would be fair to say that part of that discussion was received positively and part of it maybe not so positively. So again, that was just brought up just to prompt discussion and have some things to talk about. And then we looked at possibly reallocation of some capital requests. The Garfield Warming House, there's some options there that maybe we won't have to spend all of that money. And the bleachers were funded, I believe that was by Walmart here in the last month or so. So just some thoughts. Then again, we talked about the items, capital projects that need to be considered. Again, Litchfield Avenue, quiet zones, and stormwater. Then we had a discussion on the franchise fee. And it was a recommendation of the committee, and I'll introduce a motion to introduce an ordinance to create a franchise fee on natural gas for the use of public right-of-way and set the public hearing for that for November 19th, 2007.
Second.
We have a motion to set a public hearing on November 19th to introduce an ordinance to create a franchise fee on natural gas for the use of public right-of-way. Further comment about that? Was this discussed at the Finance Committee any further?
We had discussion on it, yes.
Okay?
You know, it was one of the things that was in your original,
Right.
it was in your original budget, and we have to, if we're going to do that, we need to get the ball rolling, and this is just to set the hearing, and then we
All
can
right.
have the discussions on the merits maybe later.
Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis, could you inform us further, what were the pros and cons that were discussed at the meeting? There must have been some reasons for and some against it.
Well, I think, you know, certainly the pros are getting, it would generate about $250,000 annually on this, and it would go back to the users. I think the big anti-thing is not all residences in the city use natural gas, so it becomes a fairness issue. I think would be primarily the point, and those are the major points.
Okay, thank you.
Did anyone have the numbers on the number of users of natural gas as opposed to those who do not use natural gas?
I don't think, Mr. Mayor, that that's in there. There's some discussion on
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead. Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We asked Mr. Schmidt to provide us with, and I haven't been to the city office building, but have we been provided with the document he received from Madagascar or Centerpoint? And that information would be found in that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. That, if it's being developed, we'll see it at another committee meeting or at the public hearing. Bruce, would you make sure that we get that information? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to support that, I believe that that information was going to be coming to us, and we'd see that ahead of the hearing.
All right. All right, we have a motion, or Councilmember Anderson?
I just want to make sure, I want to follow up on what both these gentlemen have said, and I want to make sure that we do have that information prior to that hearing, because I frankly thought it was going to be in the minutes. It was not. So anyway, we just got to make sure it's an email is what it is, and we need to make sure we have that information.
Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering why would we introduce an ordinance for a hearing before we have the information on it? That particular information doesn't make sense to me. It's just for the grab of money. I mean, I think we need that information to make an educated decision here.
Councilmember Anderson?
We'll have that information.
Okay. Yes.
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to draft an amendment to an ordinance that does not have the specifics as to what the amendment's going to be, i.e. the amount of the money, what the formula is going to be, when it's going to be paid, and so forth.
Has there been any staff discussion about this, on putting those kinds of figures together, Bruce, that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. Perhaps between the administrator and the finance director.
Neither of whom are here tonight. Okay. Rich, you make a very good point. My assumption is that that information will be forthcoming before the public hearing. When is our city administrator back to work on that?
Next
14th, I think.
14th?
And next Tuesday, the 13th.
The 13th. And this hearing is set for the 19th. I'm sure that'll be first on his work list when he gets back.
We can't meet the publication requirements in the charter.
I just thought of that.
Wait until next week.
Yeah, I just thought of that, Rich. Bruce, you're going to have to discuss that with Mick. So does that mean we should not be voting on a public hearing right now then, Rich? That's what you're implying, right? There's not enough time.
Some direction to prepare it.
Yeah. And I think staff needs to get the numbers, and they need to put together what that ordinance is going to look like. Dennis, I think we have to wait 2 more weeks.
Well, Mr. Mayor, just, it's not something that's new to the administrator. He knows that this has been coming. I can't imagine that he doesn't have this. But if we can't make the publication deadline, then
We can't do it.
we can't do it. Absolutely not. Now, we've got, I think we can communicate with him here, in the next few days.
Let me ask staff,
Done.
Bruce or Audrey, is there a way of communicating with our administrator to clarify this issue?
There is.
Okay. All right, there'll be communication.
So just for my own clarification, then, if we don't get that information, then we won't have the public hearing.
That's correct.
And if our city attorney doesn't get direction on this, there's nothing
Right.
for the public hearing.
Okay. It will just have to be postponed then. Okay.
So, we could vote on the public hearing contingent on having the information available. If it's not available, the public hearing is canceled then. Do you wish to do that?
I think we should maybe add that amendment to it, as you indicated there, contingent on having sufficient information to meet the publication deadlines.
Okay, I can't make that amendment.
I did.
But you made the motion too, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can make an amendment. Can he make an amendment to his own motion?
Sure.
All right, is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
All right, we now have an amendment to the original motion. The amendment is that the council is going to vote on a public hearing for November 19th that includes an ordinance to create a franchise fee on natural gas, contingent on having all the information in place and the ordinance prepared. If it's not ready, then the public hearing will not take place. Is that fair enough? Okay, any comment about the amendment to the motion? Those in favor of the amendment to the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
That's 5 to
1.
5 to 1. All right, so the amendment passes. Now we're back to the original motion. Any other comment about the original motion with the amendment attached? If not, those in favor of the original motion with the amendment attached say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
That motion passes 5 to 1.
Okay. Thank you. Again, we talked a little bit about the fact that these are ideas and suggestions that we had, and we would have to be making final decisions at our November 26th Finance Committee meeting. Unless there's questions, I would move to file these minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to file the minutes. Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd request that the CenterPoint Energy franchise fee concerns and implementation guidelines be linked to the city website so that the public can read this, okay? I don't think it's on there, and it should not be a problem to get it on there, I wouldn't think. This document.
As that evolves. Okay. I have a question on this next page in our packet is a work page from the Finance Committee. Dennis, do you want to comment on that?
That's my worksheet. It was just some things that I thought about that we should consider. Talking points, suggestions only. That's what led the discussion of the what I went through for the minutes there.
Would you comment on the state lobbyist, $12,000?
There's been a proposal. It hasn't come to the council yet that we hire a lobbyist to lobby on our behalf at the state legislature, and the amount of money that's going to require is $12,000. So it's one of those items that we need to have a discussion about. If we want to do that, we need to get it in the budget.
All right, so this is not a proposal at this time, it's just under consideration?
Just talking points only.
Okay. Do you want to comment on who that state lobbyist would be?
That would be Dean Elton Johnson has had contact, I believe, with the city and the county. I don't know if the Economic Development Commission or not, but I know that I know the county is considering hiring him as a consultant, a lobbyist.
All right. I've not talked to Mr. Johnson about this yet, but what I understand is that there has been a discussion with Larry Kleindl as the county administrator, and who's the third party? Is it,
I thought it was
the EDC.
I think it's the EDC.
is it EDC or is it
Yes.
the school board?
EDC.
EDC, in order to work directly on projects such as Grass Lake, the wastewater treatment program, and there's another project to use his experience as a senator and now as a lobbyist to further access the powers at the legislature to support the funding for these projects. There was a third project, and I forgot which it is now. Oh, the Veterans Home.
Yes.
The Veterans Home.
Yep.
So the Veterans Home, Grass Lake, and the wastewater treatment plant. So this will come back to the Finance Committee, is that correct? Or you'll continue to talk about this?
Mr. Mayor, we're not, the Finance Committee is not going to meet now before the 26th. So this will come to the full council to discuss on November 26th.
Not the 19th, on the 26th?
The 26th is the night that we have the Finance Committee where
understand that.
everybody
Okay.
gets together and we finalize the budget.
November 26th is the full council finalizing the budget.
Right.
Thank you. I had heard that the county and EDC was supportive of this idea. That's the indication I got, so. So you're going to comment?
Well, I had also gotten the indication from the county. I don't know about the EDC. And, you know, we should remember that 2008 session is going to be the bonding session
Right.
where these monies will be, you know, divvied up out and around the state. So, I mean, I think it certainly merits discussion.
Okay. It was interesting. We had the Senate, the Minnesota Senate's Appropriation Committee or Bonding Committee. What was it called?
It was the House Investment Committee.
Oh, the House Investment Committee was out here at Ridgewater College last Friday taking, I forgot, that's not the right day. Was it Friday? Last Friday, taking testimony on bonding projects from our area, but also they've been on the road, and they've had literally billions, I guess, of requests. That's what Representative Dean Erdahl commented on. And so for Willmar to be involved in that discussion for the Veterans Home and the wastewater treatment plant and Grass Lake is going to need some expert kind of lobbying and maneuvering down at the state legislature. So that's why this discussion is surfacing, is that because it is a bonding year, what can we do collectively as a community and county to make sure that Willmar and Candioi County is well served by the legislature, because the competition for funding is fierce. So that's what's behind this, I believe. All right. We didn't approve the minutes yet, did we? Any other comments? Maybe if I quit talking, we can get it going here. All right. Those in favor of approving the Finance Committee report, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. That motion carries. Next are the Public Works Safety Committee report for October 24th. Councilmember Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not on our agenda, but the first item that was in the minutes is we had two residents of the 10th and Candioi High area that we've discussed, significantly discussed in regards to stormwater and flooding problems. We had Brad Skindlin, who lives at 713 Southwest 11th Street, and Sherry Felson, who lives at 707 Southwest 11th Street, at the meeting. They came and wanted to speak, and I allowed them to speak at the beginning of the meeting. They were of the opinion that that if the city constructed detention ponds in their neighborhood, adjacent to their property, that it would create groundwater and additional flooding, and right north of the intersection. And we assured them that We are not at this time considering a detention pond at that location under the present plan. So that item was for information only. The second item was in regards to the wastewater treatment plant and our relocation project and the September monthly report from Craig Holmes of Donahue and Associates. And also he gave us information in regards to the easement acquisition process, which is now underway, and offers to purchase were mailed to the first group of property owners on the pipeline corridors west of County Road 5. And crop pest testing was done on selected agricultural lands west of 30th Street to address landowners' concerns that the city's work may contaminate their lands. And the tests confirmed that the pest was already present on most of these lands. We were also informed that a workshop was conducted with city staff to review the 75% documents. Construction cost estimate was reviewed, and our project remains within the budget, and Donahue was directed to proceed to the 95% design. The environmental assessment worksheet has been submitted to the MPCA, and comments so far from the MPCA are favorable, and the NPDES permit application was also submitted. In the construction phase of the Southern Interceptor, bids were received, and the contract was awarded to Chad Munson Excavating. 700 lineal feet of the 1,800 lineal feet of pipe had been installed at the day of our meeting. I don't know where we are right now.
We're about 150 feet short of being completed.
Okay, about 150 feet short of being completed. And restoration work on 28th Avenue Southeast is complete, and the contract closeout is in progress. So construction activities are underway for the interim modifications, and completion is planned for November 2007. Third item was Bonema surveys were under subcontract to Donahue and Associates, and they have prepared a right-of-way plats that will be used as the legal descriptions of parcels to be acquired for the conveyance system. And these right-of-way plats have been used by the city's appraiser and the city's property acquisition legal counsel. And Donahue and Associates have requested approval of these 9 right-of-way plats. So, Mr. Mayor, I would introduce a resolution to accept those right-of-way plats, numbers 1 through 8 and number 11, as prepared by Bonema Surveys, and forward them to the county for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to accept 9 right-of-way plats, numbers 1 through 8 and number 11, and submit them to the county for approval.
Now, there will be 2 additional right-of-way plats, 9 and 10, right?
3 or 4.
Okay, but 9 and 10 needed some modifications, right?
9 and 10.
All right, any comment about this motion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item was a letter that we had received from Donahue and Associates where they requested that the city consider a conventional method of letting and managing the wastewater treatment plant contracts. Most of the time we use construction management approach, and that was initially proposed. Right now, Donahue is of the opinion that the conventional method will allow Donahue better oversee of the project and will result in the city getting more competitive bidding and overall lower construction costs, and generally be in the best interest of the city ratepayers. So following a discussion of the pros and cons of each method of construction management, I'll introduce a Motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the request from Donahue to switch from the construction management to the conventional and revise the facilities plan consultant contracts accordingly.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Donahue and Associates' request to switch from construction management to conventional management and revise the facility plan contracts accordingly. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does this then result in less hands-on oversight, or going back to the conventional way rather than the construction management approach?
No, I don't think so. I think it's, go ahead, Craig.
Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, in the standard design bid build approach that we are recommending, there is every bit the same amount of construction oversight than there would be in the construction management approach. It's just that the roles are divided a little bit differently between the construction contractor people and us administering the construction contract on behalf of the city. A lot of the roles that the construction manager would perform if it had been delivered under a construction management approach are performed by the prime contractors under the traditional approach that we've recommended. And the reason we recommended the approach that we have is we believe that with the construction market the way it exists right now, that we stand the best chance of the most competitive pricing at the time of bid, in just the way the contracts are arranged and organized for bidding. So our next step then would be to come back to staff and then through committee and to council with the precise organization of construction contracts for the conveyance and for the treatment facilities. And you'll see that that package would be different than it had been delivered in a construction management approach, as was Rice Hospital.
And I think part of it too was that this is just going to be go ahead and build. There's no phase or sequencing to the project, so it's just a matter of moving in and doing the job.
Right.
Any other comments? We have a motion to approve for this request. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Next item is in regards to our airport fueling system. And over this past summer, our fueling system has been struck by lightning a number of times and had some static surges. And the system the card reading system has been damaged beyond repair. We have spent over $13,000 so far to repair the system. And Heartland Electric has given the city a proposal, which in that proposal they would install 4 additional surge projectors on the fuel system. 2 of them would be located at each card reader outside to prevent the fuel system becoming disabled. And they also recommended that the city purchase 2 to have an inventory to alleviate any downtime, because these aren't readily available just in case another lightning strike would occur. The cost, including labor, is $2,500. So, Mr. Mayor, I would introduce a resolution to authorize the Finance Director to transfer money from the airport professional services into the capital improvements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to authorize our City Finance Director to transfer money from the airport professional services into capital improvements. Comment. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have a fuel system that tends to become disabled from time to time, and it's a new fuel system for a new airport, and parts aren't readily available for it.
Mel, do you wish to comment on this, our city engineer?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The surge protectors that we do have in place are in the terminal building, but we didn't have any surge protectors out at the card reader, the data line and the communication line out by the card reader at the pump itself. I believe you could still manually pump when we had the lightning strikes, but you couldn't automatically fuel with a credit card. So that was the issue with the surge protectors, and then the readily available. I think what perhaps that was more meant, like if lightning struck tonight, we may not be able to get them until like Thursday. We had to get them from like the cities or something. We didn't have them in town. We could go buy them, install them, and be up and running in an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Mel, is there some reason why our outdoor fuel tank is struck by lightning? Does a fuel tank draw lightning or what?
I guess I can't understand. I don't quite understand that. We didn't have that problem at the old site.
Did not?
We did not, no. And I don't know that they anticipated it out here. And I hope that this resolves the issue.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other comments about this? We have a resolution, and it's been seconded. A roll call.
Councilmember Gardner,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
DeBleek,
Aye.
Reese,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
The resolution passes.
The city has a master agreement with the state for some services that they provide to the city, and that agreement expires in November of this year. And the committee reviewed a new master agreement that had been written to replace the old agreement, and it would be a 5-year agreement with the state performing services and tasks. This agreement is for lab material testing, bridge inspections, pavement striping, and the staff had recommended going along with the agreement, so the committee considered that. After discussion, there was a motion that we bring to the council a resolution, which I will introduce, Mr. Mayor, to accept the agreements as presented and authorize the mayor and the city administrator to sign on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to sign a future agreement with the state of Minnesota called a partnership agreement that'll be in place for 5 years for some selected services. Further comment? Just a quick question, Mel, with all the discussion about bridge inspections, does this agreement assure the city of Willmar that our bridges have been inspected on a periodic basis for safety, and do we get some kind of a statement to that effect from the state then?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, they do a bridge inspection every year. I believe it's every year on all. We have 6 structures that they inspect. And that's the work order agreement that we've had with the state, because we do not have the staff expertise in that aspect of, and we do get a full report every year.
Good. So we can assure the public that our bridges are inspected. Good, thank you. Any other comments? Roll call.
Councilmember Dakin,
Aye.
DeBleek,
Abstain.
Reese,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, 1 abstention.
That resolution passes.
Next item was in regards to some correspondence from the FAA that the city administrator shared with the committee in regards to the ongoing attempt to secure release of the property at our former airport. And in a letter from the FAA, which was written on the 2nd of October, the FAA is requiring that the city conduct additional studies as follow-up to their previous environmental assessment worksheet to secure a HUD grant for airport development And the FAA is requesting that the city have a Phase 1 archaeological site and historic building assessment performed on the former airport building area. And secondly, a Phase 2 environmental due diligence audit to determine the existence of any hazardous material, wastes, or substances. So, Mr. Mayor, to hopefully move this process on, I would introduce a resolution to accept the proposal from Bolton and Mink to conduct a Section 106 cultural resource review, which is an archaeological assessment at an estimated baseline project review cost of $4,500, and this would be funded through the local option sales tax account set up for airport development.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to accept a proposal from Bolton and Mink to conduct a Section 106 cultural resource review, which is an archaeological assessment, for a cost of $4,500. Further comment? I don't know what the council members think, but this seems to be a very small need to do such a study. I mean, why? What are we studying? A couple of old hangars out there that are made out of cement block, or what? There's nothing else out there. Bruce?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, the requirement by the federal government or the FAA at this time is that the archaeological survey be done over the entire building site as developed. So where the old hangars were removed, where the hangar still exists, and then the front apron area as well. It's a federal requirement for releasing the federal airport.
Bruce, do you have any idea of how they do this? And what is it they do?
They will do historical research. They will do a field survey. They will look for anything out of the ordinary. They'll do a history of land use on the site. They will study aerial photos that are available. Staff shares the council's concern.
Does the council, do you think this is frivolous? I do.
It is, but we can't move forward without it. We're
That's
stuck in the
correct.
mud.
The FAA has told us they will not release that land without these documents in hand.
Is this the request that took them over a year to respond to?
They brought it up very recently. It's something that we didn't know about previous to this fall.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? All right, we have a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember DeBleek,
Aye.
Reese,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
The resolution passes. I just think that falls in that category of a federal mandate that we're forced to pay for, that I really question what the need is here.
Well, I think the committee agrees with you, and we had some discussion and even a couple chuckles as we discussed the possibility of guys crawling around on their knees with little sifters and sifting through the sand or whatever. We really didn't understand it either, but
Yeah, the land hasn't
we have to.
changed.
It's a hoop that we have to jump through, and it just seems frivolous. Yes.
The land hasn't changed out there in over 50 years. Nothing's been out there. All right, go ahead.
To continue the same line, Mr. Mayor, I would introduce a resolution to accept a proposal from Glacial Lakes Environmental Consulting to conduct an environmental soils assessment program at a not-to-exceed amount of $2,875, and this also would be funded through the local option sales tax account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept a proposal from Glacial Lakes Environmental Consulting Incorporated to conduct an environmental soils assessment program not to exceed an amount of $2,875. Comment. Roll call.
Councilmember Reese,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Dakin,
Aye.
DeBleek,
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
The resolution passes.
The last item in the minutes, Mr. Mayor and council members, was brought by myself and simply was based on a article I had read in the West Central Tribune that morning, where I was going to try and look it up, and I forgot to look it up, what city it was, but it was a moderately sized city that replaced all of their city streetlights with LED lights, and I believe the payback on the cost of doing that was like 3 years, and then the lights last much longer, plus use significantly less energy. And I just brought that up, and the rest of the committee members agreed with me that maybe our MUC and our staff should take a look at that for not only within the city, but even on the bypass. We are supplying the power for all of those streetlights.
So that was for information.
That's for information only, and there were no other items. And I'll entertain any questions. Otherwise, I move the file of minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file these minutes. Any comments? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is a consideration of a resolution authorizing and directing the filing of eminent domain proceedings. Craig, would you explain that to the council, please?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, as part of our ongoing acquisition of conveyance corridor parcels, we have a resolution to consider this evening. It's the second of 2 resolutions authorizing our land acquisition legal counsel to initiate eminent domain proceedings. On October 15th, council approved a just compensation resolution for these parcels. Those offers to purchase have been extended, and we recommend that the second of the eminent domain resolutions be approved, so that when it is appropriate, council may file those eminent domain proceedings. This is the second of 4 blocks of land parcels. In a minute, you'll see the third just compensation. But this is an eminent domain action that when we've reached the point where it is not likely that negotiations will result in acquisition of those parcels, we will then direct the attorney to file the eminent domain proceedings.
Thank you, Craig. Council?
I will introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt a resolution authorizing Kennedy and Graven to file the necessary proceedings to acquire the real estate interest described via eminent domain. Further comment about this? Councilmember Dock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Craig, until that time comes, in this resolution it says have not been successful. Are you able to talk about why it hasn't been successful, or is that privileged information? Or
contact has been made initially by letter offering to purchase properties. I'd say in most cases there's been no reaction from those parties. There has been some discussion with a few parties, and in one case we've reached an agreement. But even after this action is filed, at any time until it's finally judged by the commission, and by the time the judge indicates that title has been transferred, we can still reach an agreement. This resolution allows the eminent domain process to begin. Of the parcels that are out now, numbering I think about 18, I think our city clerk treasurer has probably had conversations with, I'd say, fewer than 7 parcels, owners of 7 parcels. Now the people certainly have every right under the law to challenge the figure that we've offered, by commissioning their own appraisal, for which we reimburse their costs up to a ceiling of $5,000. But I have yet to see an appraisal from any of our landowners to whom we've offered to purchase property.
So the appraisal then is what quite possibly is holding this up then, or?
No, I don't think so. I think it's people that aren't willing to come in and negotiate or to offer a counteroffer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a resolution on the table. It's been seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
The resolution passes. Next is the consideration of another resolution called just compensation. Craig?
Mayor Heike and members of the council, this is the third of the 4 just compensation resolutions that you'll have to consider. At this point, the appraisals have been made for another group of properties, and this resolution authorizes staff to extend offers to purchase of those properties. And in general, we are moving from the west side of our conveyance route to the east. Just compensation resolution number 3 that you have in front of you this evening starts basically from 30th Street and continues to the east.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move adoption of the resolution allowing staff to extend those offers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution that allows staff to extend offers to purchase land parcels for the wastewater conveyance facilities. This is called resolution number 3. Further comment about this? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes. Next is the consideration of another resolution. It's titled The Acquisition of Parcels 53, 38, and 59. Craig, would you explain that?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, what you have in front of you is a resolution to authorize the mayor and city administrator to sign documents to purchase a property. In this case, this parcel, these 3 parcels, an offer was extended. The owner of those parcels of land counteroffered, indicating that the acquisition we had in mind left 2 minor remnants behind. The counteroffer was reasonable, asking that the city acquire those small remnant parcels also. So it is our recommendation that the city of Willmar accept that counteroffer as discussed between legal counsel and counsel for the owners, and accept and purchase that property at in the amount of $23,100.
I introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution to adopt a resolution to sign necessary documents for the purchase of the parcels 53, 58, and 59 of the wastewater treatment plant interceptor sewer line in the amount of $23,100. Comment? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Craig, the last sentence in the resolution, is that saying that you are accepting the 24-hour notice?
That was a request that came about in the negotiations. We wanted a longer notice before they entered our corridor for whatever purposes. They countered asking for as little as 24 hours, and we felt that that was reasonable.
So it is acceptable? Huh?
Yes, it is acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes. Next is the consideration of another resolution, which is an amendment to the state aid agreement for relocation of aircraft storage hangars. Bruce, would you explain that, please?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, The City of Willmar, as you'll recall, entered into a grant agreement with the State of Minnesota Office of Aeronautics for the relocation of hangars from the old airport to the new airport. The original estimated cost was $500,000, and the state agreed to a 50-50 split. Over the course of those hangar relocations, additional costs were incurred, and the state has determined that those costs are eligible for reimbursement. The state has indicated they're willing to enter into an amendment that would increase their proportionate share by $127,883.04. So their total obligation under this agreement would become $377,883.04. It's a recommendation of staff that the council accept Amendment Number 1 to the State Aid Agreement and authorize the city administrator and mayor to sign on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Bruce.
Move to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept Amendment Number 1 to the State Aid Agreement and authorize our city administrator and mayor to sign this. The amount involved is a state additional share of $127,883.04. Comment. Roll call. Or just a second, Andre. Councilmember Christian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, does that mean that the city share also becomes $377,883? Or is it $127 above and beyond $500?
Right. I believe they did agree to split the additional costs.
So all of them are 50-50?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes. Next is another resolution to be considered called the Certification of Unpaid Utility Charges as a Lien. Bruce, would you explain that?
This is something that the city does on an annual basis at least, and that's that the Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission has requested that the city certify some unpaid utility charges for various properties as liens against those properties. According to the city code, municipal code, a hearing was offered to the property owners to object to the charges, and the commission received no request to appear before them to object. It's a recommendation of staff that the resolution be adopted that will certify the unpaid utility charges as liens on the appropriate properties.
Thank you, Bruce.
Mr. Mayor, introduce the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to introduce this resolution for certification of unpaid utility charges as a lien. Comment. Roll call then.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin. 6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes. The next one is another resolution. We have a lot of these tonight. Called the Senior Citizen Deferment. Bruce?
This is a very similar action in that the council needs to adopt by resolution those senior citizen requested deferments of special assessments. You'll note that that information, the specifics, the details are not included in your packet as data privacy, and it's a recommendation of staff that the council adopt a resolution that defers those assessments.
Thank you.
Introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a resolution and a second, or a motion for a resolution and a second, to defer special assessments for project 0701. Comment. This is for senior citizens. A roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes. Next is a consideration of a preliminary plat called the Hills West Side Addition. Bruce?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, Hills West Side Addition is a two-lot replat of a portion of Parkview Estates. The plat is being proposed by Dawn Skogstead, who is the owner of the property, and she proposes single-family home development on that property. The Planning Commission has approved the preliminary plat with conditions regarding utility easements and some street improvements. And it's a recommendation of staff that the council approve the preliminary plat with those same conditions.
Thank you, Bruce.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a preliminary plat called the Hills West Side Addition, and approve this conditioned upon rezoning approval. Further comment about this? Now, is this a resolution?
Well, just a motion.
Okay, those in favor of the motion.
You got a question?
You got a question? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, is this something we've seen before with a couple other options?
We have seen numerous options. I'm not convinced this is the last.
Okay, thank you.
This has been the best one brought to the Planning Commission so far. It's the only one that the Planning Commission has been willing to accept.
Okay, thank you.
What's the concern here?
The property was originally platted for townhouse development back in the early 80s, and the townhouse development stalled out towards the east end of this property. And the Planning Commission was just concerned that whatever gets built in there is a logical and a compatible transition into the single-family neighborhood of Voss Park.
Okay. Any other questions about this? Those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next is a consideration of another preliminary plat called the Slumberland Addition. Bruce?
The Slumberland Addition is property just north of McMillan's. It consists of two meets and bounds parcels that are being platted into one lot. And in the process, there are some errors and some old legal descriptions that will be cleaned up. The Planning Commission has approved the preliminary plat with some utility easements added to the plat. It's a recommendation of staff that the council approve the preliminary plat with that same condition.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this preliminary plat called the Slumberland Addition. Councilmember Reese.
So now it'll be a surveyed, not a meets and bounds, and the one next, on both sides are meets and bounds. Is there a dispute as far as match on the south side?
No, actually, there was a strip of no man's land in the middle of the two meets and bounds descriptions that will now be corrected by this. Didn't have anything to do with the perimeter or with the south edge or the north edge of the plat. It was actually some land that ran through the middle of the plat. So Bunema is making those corrections.
So this little almost triangle piece between McMillan's property and the new Slumberland Addition, that's what I was questioning. The little
piece down here?
separation, the way it looks, between McMillan's and Slumberland.
No, the property that's in question, if you look through the center of the block or through the center of the lot, you'll see 19.71 feet. You'll see almost a
Yes.
corridor.
Yeah.
That's the property that does not show up in the legal descriptions that's being corrected.
Okay. But what I'm questioning, Bruce, is the property corners and the property lines on the south side of Slumberland Addition does not match up to McMillan's meets and bounds unplatted.
I think, are you talking about the shaded area?
No, it's just,
Because I'm not,
it's right between the property line and the line on the shaded area, which is McMillan's.
Just a strip of land through there.
right, that belongs with the McMillan's property.
It does.
Yes.
Okay, it's deceiving to me on the drawing. It looks like there's kind of an unknown patch of ground in between.
It does
there.
look like that. Part of that problem, I think, is because of the shading and the shadowing that occurs on here. That's what confuses me when I look at it. Other than that, if you look at how the corners are laid out here, the south line of this plat is the surveyed north line of the McMillan's property.
Okay, now you've answered my question. Thank you.
Bruce, what is the building that is there on that Slumberland plat?
Most recently, it was Dewey's Auto Sales, I think. Prior to that, Catherine Miller had a chiropractic office in there. And then Papa John's coffee kiosk was on the north end of that.
Right, all right, okay. All right, any other questions about this, Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, when they go back and look at the final plat, then they'll be discussing some stormwater retention and detention issues at that time.
Well, the platting process is, in this particular case, is to deal with the subdivision or the combining of the parcels. The individual project that gets proposed for that site is what will trigger the stormwater requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Audrey, do we have a motion on the table here?
Yes. Councilmember Anderson.
And it's been seconded? Okay. Any other comments? Those in favor of this plat, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is the consideration of a request for reapportionment of special assessments. Bruce?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, Nelson Leasing sold some property along 25th Street Southeast, and as part of that sale, the assessments against the larger tract must be reapportioned against the remaining tract that remains for Nelson Leasing, as well as against the property that was sold. Staff has done the calculations and proposes the appropriate split based on the assessable frontage on 25th Street Southeast, and it's the recommendation of staff that the resolution reapportioning those assessments in that proportion be adopted.
Thank you.
I'd introduce the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution adopting reapportioning assessments as requested. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 no.
That resolution passes. We'll go to miscellany at this point. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move to direct city staff to negotiate with the owners for the purchase of the property at 1,000 Candio High Avenue Southwest.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second for a motion to direct staff to negotiate for the purchase of land at 1,000 Candio High Avenue South. Comment about this. Councilmember Reese?
What is going to be the purpose of purchase? What is the land going to be used for?
One of the things that we have on that property right now is a condemned building. We also have property owners that need to be able to do something with that building, and this is one of the ways that we can help affect that. I also see a public purpose in this, besides removing an obvious public hazard. To be able to have the city control that property and be able to, and this is just some thinking outside the box, perhaps that can be something, which, since it's a low-lying area already, it already collects water. It could be, for example, a demonstration area for rain gardens, that type of thing. But obviously, this is something that you know, this is in the second ward, and this is something that we feel necessary to do to move things forward in that neighborhood.
I guess I have some questions in regards, because the purpose served in purchasing the property, and I recognize the fact that the property is unusable as it stands, but I think it could be repaired. But the city has infrastructure in place to deal with the stormwater situation, and we're trying to make some changes, which will hopefully alleviate some of the problems. I would never say all, that are experienced by the property owners in this area. And the system that is maintained by the city is regularly maintained, whether it be catch basins, be manholes, be the storm sewer lines itself. And I don't think that there's really any fault on the city's part that the flooding occurs. The reason that the flooding occurred was this was an act of God. I don't have the definition of an act of God here, but I think we all know what that means. It's something that was either a flood or a tornado or something that occurs naturally that we have no control over. And if there's no fault on the part of the city itself, that's why I ask, what is the purpose of buying the land? Because we need to have a purpose, because I believe I had a conversation with our city attorney in regards to this possibility. And Rich, you have to help me a little bit here, but I believe that if we pay for something and it doesn't serve the public's in some way, we're just transferring some dollars. Can we just buy a piece of property because we want to alleviate the problem? I think there was something with the Attorney General that I questioned you on.
That's correct. Unless the city can show that there is a public use that's going to be benefited by acquisition of the property, it amounts to nothing more than a gift. And the Attorney General's office has ruled numerous times that public funds cannot be used for gifts to private parties.
So therefore my concern, fellow council members.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, the public purpose that I envision for this is an area that can be used for stormwater detention and or demonstration projects such as rain gardens. There is also, I believe, a public purpose in taking a property that simply put has been, I mean, this is an intersection that has suffered, and I don't mean this flippantly, suffered acts of God for decades. And over and over and over again, we keep coming to the same issue, and part of it, and I don't mean to say that the city is at fault here. I'm not trying to say that in any way, shape, or form, but we have a neighborhood where everything just simply collects at that spot. And now we have folks who are out of their home because of it. And their property is worthless. And I don't want this to be considered a gift. However, it's the right thing to do, to take this property and begin the process of making a public purpose there. We may in the future, and I'm not interested at this time in acquiring any other properties over there. I want to make that clear as well. But we may in the future have to consider doing that if the measures that we're currently undertaking don't work. We have a history, it seems, of not being able to make whatever it is that we've been doing work in that area. I think also we need to be able to have that property to be able to better assess some of the potential for damage to our infrastructure underneath that intersection.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several concerns. This concern about the legality of what we're doing really strikes me as something that we need to study. We need to make sure we're doing the right thing. The second concern I have is, we've got a plan in place. I think we all wanted to do the right thing, and we're working on a stormwater detention plan, looking at different options for that. It seems that we might be jumping the gun here. If we can solve the problem the way that we have laid it out, it seems like that's what we should do. If that isn't going to work, then maybe we need to look at some other options. But I think we're premature in doing this, and I am concerned about the legality, and I just can't see any way of supporting this.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Yeah, I think what's already been determined that the flooding in that intersection is no fault of the city, but and Councilman Reese raises the question about the legality of doing this, but I think if we would purchase the property, do we set any precedents as far as any other place where we have problems with flooding in town as well? So.
Keep in mind, you can't pay more than the appraised value of the property. That probably answers the question right there, but yes, precedent would be an issue.
So I would think we'd take some further discussions and looking at the issue specifically, and maybe even referring it to one of the committees.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the acts of God have been happening over there, like Councilman Gardner said, for 2 decades. I remember back in the late 90s being approached by some citizens. I remember 2 years ago being approached by the same citizens. I remember paying for some studies to be done. I remember nothing being done. Alleviating the problem over there is not just diverting the water to the retention ponds. There's more than one answer, and I think that Mr. Gardner's on the right track. I think it's in the city's best interest to purchase that property, to probably do a retention pond there. So the city's, as far as public interest, they're the city's best interest. I think it's in our interest to do that. To not do that is just to push this problem aside again and hope that we get the retention ponds built in Kennedy, Garfield. And we don't know that they're going to happen yet. We cannot sit on our hands any longer. This is very similar to the train noise problem. For God's sakes, when are we going to do something? When are we going to do something? Our own Congress in Washington has done absolutely nothing, and we're just mimicking them by sitting on these problems. These are real public problems, people problems, that we can solve if we do something. When in the heck are we going to start doing something? We lay the red carpet out for everybody coming to town. Any new business, we leave the new businesses here on their own. We don't listen to the people, to the train noise, this stormwater problem. I'm ready to do something. I think we need to act here, and it's in our own best interest, in their best interest, and it will help. It will help alleviate some of the problem over there if we purchase that property and either do rain gardens or put a retention pond there, a park with a low level. Something, but it's going in the right direction. And if we don't do this, we're remiss about it. I mean, We need to do this, folks.
Councilmember Reese.
Well, Councilmember DeBleek mentions the precedent, and it was beyond the legal end of it. I think of the precedent that we are setting in this type of action, and the numerous intersections that we have that also flood, and also the even more numerous residences that are affected by that flooding. And I think we're setting a precedent that not only beyond the legal side of it that I brought up earlier, but also the precedent setting for other claims within the city. So I speak against this, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As to precedents, we're talking about an extremely unique situation in that this is a property where the foundation is caved in. I should think that if we had similar other properties where their foundation had caved in a similar circumstance at a low-lying intersection, that at that point in time we would probably be looking at a property that could be handled under that precedent. I don't envision a whole pile of property owners coming to the city and saying, well, I get some water in my basement, and you know, some of these things happen. I think you should buy my property too. That's not the purpose of something like this. Everybody realizes that this is an extreme circumstance. And sometimes when you have something that is out there to this extreme, that you need to take the next step. And you need to, as Councilmember Christensen said, use this property for a detention pond or what have you. But there's certainly a public purpose in my mind to purchasing this property, and the motion simply requests that staff enter into those negotiations.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've got it wrong here. The precedents would be setting is that we're finally doing something. That's the precedent we're setting. We're finally doing something over there. Remember precedents when we get to our budget meeting on November 26th. I'm going over these notes by Councilmember Anderson here. You realize what we're paying out here for a federal lobbyist? For our dues for the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, those two combined are $49,300. That's annually. That's annually. The library wants $7,000. We set a precedent last year by upping their fee, which I was against, or upping the amount we gave them. We're looking at a maintenance position at Senior Citizen Center for $20,000, a part-time one. We've been giving the Southwest Initiative funding $10,000 per year. And then the state lobbyist we're looking at, those two together, that's $22,000. Plus the senior citizen position, you know, it brings it up to $40-some thousand. Let's put our money where our mouth is and do something here. Let's set the precedent of starting to fix this problem at that particular area. There's other areas that have problems, and we need to look at them also. But for crying out loud, let's get going on this. We got to support this, folks.
I have a couple questions. One is of our city engineer. The other is a rhetorical question. But if I could ask Mel, this idea of buying one house and using it for either a retention or a detention pond, what's the basis for that? Does that give us anything?
Well, I think in the, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in the report that I had written back in October, I had recommended that to be of any kind of size, you should take about 4 to 6 homes, or about 4,000 yards, to have any sizable amount. Now, granted, anything on an incremental basis you can do in the drainage area will help. I was looking at more of a larger percentage, but anything you can do will help. So I don't know that to say it won't help is a fair thing to say, because anything you can do will help.
How much square footage is in a foundation of a house? I don't know.
I mean, you would probably be just short of 1,000 yards of water storage, I would envision. 150 to 200,000 gallons.
Mm-hmm. The other question I have is this issue, usually when we talk about the city expending public money, it usually goes through the Finance Committee, and it doesn't come right to the City Council table for a decision all of a sudden. Why did this not go through the City Finance Committee?
The same reason that Southwest Minnesota Housing comes to us without going through a committee and requests us to approve money for them or a development in the city of Willmar. They've done it 4 times. They have not gone through a committee. This is not unusual. They maybe set the precedent.
All right. Any other comments here from the council? Rich, again, your opinion as our city attorney is that this is a legal or illegal action?
My opinion is that it's illegal.
It's an illegal action to be considering.
Correct.
All right. There is a motion on the table, and it's been seconded to ask the city staff to enter into negotiations with the owner of the property of 1,000 Candy Ojai Avenue here in Willmar. Further comment about that? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
No.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
Reese.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
3 ayes, 3 no.
Doesn't pass.
Rich, it's a tie vote. What are the options then?
You can break the tie or you can leave it as it is. If you leave it as it is, it does not pass.
For lack of a majority. And you're stating that this is an illegal action. I'll leave the vote the way it is.
Mr. Mayor, I changed my vote to no.
You change your vote to no?
I just simply want to be able to bring this up again at a later date, procedurally.
Rich, is that proper?
I didn't understand what it is.
He said he's changing his vote to no at this time.
If I and I'll ask for a clarification, but if I change my vote to no, that allows me to bring it up again later?
You can bring it up again later if you want to. You don't have to change your vote to do it.
Then I won't change my vote.
All right. That's what we have under miscellany. Announcement of council committee meeting dates. Finance.
Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee will next meet as the full committee and the council on November 26th. That'll be at 5 p.m. at the Holiday Inn.
Public Works, Public Safety.
Tuesday, November 13th, at the Civic Center, Mr. Mayor.
The Civic Center.
It gives us the opportunity to see the new connection between the 2 buildings, and there is a meeting room there.
And that's at, you said 5 p.m.?
No, 4:45. We've got to be done hopefully by 6 o'clock, because at 6:30, I think it is the program for the War Memorial over at the auditorium that some of us are attending.
What day of the week is that?
That is Tuesday.
What program's at the War Memorial?
John Lindstrand has that war display on an annual basis.
Is it on a Tuesday?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
is
next
it-
Tuesday.
I thought it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
No. This program is next Tuesday.
Well, his program with the speaker is for Sunday night,
Correct. Yeah,
the 17th.
you're right.
Well, I had it down as the 13th.
I was invited too for a supper, 6:30, the 13th. Tuesday, the 13th.
Well, maybe, is he running it extra long this year? Anybody know? We'll look into it. All right, so Public Works, Public Safety is November 13th at 4:45 in the afternoon at the Civic Center where the hockey rinks are. All right, Community Development.
Yeah, Community Development will meet November 15th. That's a Thursday, 4:45.
Community Development Thursday, November 15th, 4:45. Labor?
No meeting.
Just a reminder to the public that this Friday evening is the annual foundation dinner for Rice Memorial Hospital Foundation. I believe tickets are still available by contacting the Rice Health Foundation at Rice Hospital. It's a wonderful fundraising event. The money raised this year will be dedicated to the pediatric services at Rice Hospital. Also, I received notice that the YMCA is having their 5th anniversary celebration on November 15th. There's some family entertainment in the evening at 5 o'clock and door prizes throughout the day. Please stop by and visit the YMCA and support the program and services there. Again, that's November 15th. Are there any other announcements that the council wishes to make? If not, the meeting is adjourned.